Welcome to Those Who Can't Do. I'm your host, Andrea Forcum. And I just wanted to take a second to thank you guys. This first year of Those Who Can't Do has been so incredible. We have had some of the absolute coolest people come on this podcast, and I feel insanely fortunate to have gotten to hang out with you guys and to meet some of these people, some of them whom I have been listening and watching for like years and years and years. One of the goals of this podcast was that I wanted to make teachers feel seen and feel heard and make teachers laugh and speak for teachers who maybe feel like their voice isn't being heard in the way that they kind of would hope it would be. And we are absolutely not done with that mission. I am so passionate about continuing on and making sure that you guys feel heard and seen. And so we are going to continue on with that, but we are going to change things just a little bit. And I know, listen. I know that some of us don't do great with change. I've talked to a lot of people about the podcast, like friends and family and people like that, about, what they love about the podcast, maybe what they want to see adjusted. And for the most part, a lot of the people who love the podcast don't want to see a lot of things change. So a few things that are not going to change. We are going to still continue on having really fantastic guests that I'm going to chat with, but we are going to add in a couple of things. And one of the things I want to do is a few episodes that are a deep dive on a specific topic that matters to you. One of the things, I've had a bunch of people, so many people, you guys have emailed me about this. The DOE is one of the things I want to try and tackle. And I don't feel like I can do it on social media. I feel like this is kind of the platform for that. Because if you do it on social media, you're going to have 60 seconds, 90 seconds to explain something. And it's just too short of a time to be able to explain the kind of nuance and look at the different takes. And so I'm really excited to kind of do a little bit of a deep dive on that and potentially talk to you guys a little bit more about the TikTok ban or book banning or any of those kinds of things that really do matter to teachers. But doing it on TikTok or Instagram isn't usually the best platform for a conversation or a deep dive on stuff like that. And because, being who I am and having a PhD, I also want to give you guys like the sources of where I'm getting the information. And you can't really do that on TikTok. So that's another reason why I'm really excited about doing some deep dive episodes with you and talking to you in depth about some of these things that are going on in the world around us. And my goal is also to bring in some guests that maybe see some of these things a little bit differently so that you can hear from multiple perspectives. Because obviously I want everything I'm sharing with you to be, founded in factual stuff. But as we all know, we can all experience the same thing and see it really differently. So I value having other opinions and perspectives on stuff like that. So that is one piece I think we're going to do, is have a deep dive on specific topics that matter to you guys. And another piece of what we're going to do is we really, really want to hear from you guys because, like I said, one of my main goals is to make sure that you guys feel heard and to make you feel seen. And so we are going to start accepting voice submissions for Q&A episodes. So these are going to be with me and probably a guest co-host, maybe Denver, maybe some of the other guests that you guys have really loved having on. And we're going to answer some questions, and they are probably mostly going to be like education related. But if you have something that's not specific to education, but you're a teacher and you're struggling with something, then we can also take a swing at that as well. And I'm really, really excited about that as well. Just hearing your guys' voices, because this platform and TikTok and Instagram and all these platforms where I'm creating content and I'm putting it out there and I see comments, and those mean a ton to me. And it means so much to me when you guys, comment on the podcast or share the podcast. And it means the world to me when people come up and say that they listen to the podcast and love it. But I am so excited about the opportunity to have like literally your guys' voices asking the question. It is really, really, really cool. Because sometimes it does feel a little bit isolating, creating content and putting it out there, to the point where more often than not, if someone were to come up to me and be like, Andrea, I am confused as to why I don't recognize them. And partly because of my ADHD brain, and I don't always recognize my students when I see them out and about. My college students who I'm currently teaching, yes. But like on my For You page, one of my former students came across my For You page and I was looking at him and I'm like, why does he look so familiar? And I'm like, oh, dude, that's the guy who asked if he could have my placenta after I had my first baby. That's right. Like stuff like that. So, I put all of these things out there in the world. And then when people come up to me and are like, oh yeah, I listen to your podcast or I watch your episodes and watch your TikToks, I'm always like, oh, no way. Like you're there. You're a person. Here you are. So I'm really, really excited about hearing from you guys and hearing your questions and hopefully helping you through a couple of things. And as part of that too, if there's a deep dive topic that you really want us to get into and want me to dig into, I would be really excited to hear from you guys on that. And we are going to do our best to find the absolute best guests ever to come on and talk to us about, both the deep dives and then also for the Q&A episodes. The Q&A episodes, I think, are going to be probably on the sillier, goofier side of things. But maybe not, maybe not necessarily. We're just going to have to wait and see how that shakes out. But I am very excited about bringing that in to the Those Who Can't Do world. And I have already had just the most fun this year. We had Sharon Says So on the podcast, who I've been following since, I think she's got like over 2 million followers now. And when I started following her, I think was the middle of the pandemic, and she had 600,000 followers, maybe, and seeing the good that she's done in the world and the way that she leads the people who follow her with such grace, I found so incredibly inspirational. And when I had Jarrett Reddick on the podcast was one of those really weird moments of like, I have a rock star on the podcast who I listened to when I was in high school and got to talk to him about his experiences as a dad and with his kid who's in school and all of that. And then, the episode where I tried to rein in Tyler Jakowski for an hour. And I'm sure we will also have him back on the podcast at some point, as well as some of my other favorites like Gasper and Phil and Denver. Oh, I do not want to forget as well. One of my favorites was Sailing Songbird when we had Luke on, who is in the midst of doing a circumnavigation around the world on his sailing boat. These are the kinds of conversations that I feel like have like changed me as an educator and as a person, because I feel like they give me glimpses into the perspectives and lives of other educators or non-educators and how they went through school themselves. And that I think is one of the things that I found so incredibly fun about doing the podcast this year. And we are going to be taking a little break. And during that break, I would encourage you to go check out Lauren and Jordan's podcast, Lauren Woolley. She was a guest on the podcast like early on. Their podcast is called We Are Fine. And it is so good, you guys. It is the perfect thing to listen to, especially during the break from my podcast while we are developing things and working on things and making sure that when we come back, we are better and stronger than ever. And on that note, I need your guys' help because, again, I want to hear from you. So if you guys could go to survey.podcasterandrea.com, I would really, really appreciate it. There's a few questions there. Listen, I know when we go and we fill out a survey, we have a patience of about 3 clicks. Please, can you finish it? Can you do the whole thing? Even if it's a little annoying, because I want this podcast to be for you guys. I want you to feel seen and I want you to feel heard. And this is one very direct way for that to happen. Also, in the meantime, if you want to join the book club, Those Who Can Read, it's going to be ongoing with Denver Riley. And we are having so much fun with that. And we allow you guys to help pick the books we read. So if you're not a fan of one of the books, well, then become a member and then you can help us choose the next one and join in the lives and all that good stuff. So thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing this with me. It has been seriously so incredibly fun and humbling to get to talk to these people and to find out that the podcast is reaching you wonderful people. And of course, I always appreciate it when we get reviews and feedback from you. And if you could share the podcast with somebody, that would mean the absolute world to me. But don't unsubscribe. We're not going to be gone forever. It's just the end of season 1. And we will be back in a little bit because I've been a teacher like my whole life. And I didn't know that like everyone else worked year round. And so I'm like, we're going to have to work a break in here somewhere. I'm not used to this like continual ongoing having to report to work thing. So we're just going to take a little hiatus, little break here. We'll just say it's like the, winter break-ish because it's cold. And it's really hard to do the things when it's this cold. But we will be back soon. So I cannot wait to hear your guys' feedback and implement it. And I'm really, really excited about season 2. So I will see you guys when we get back. Bye. Thank you so much for watching. If you're like me and you're thinking, gosh, I really need more Those Who Can't Do in my life, you can start your binging right now by clicking on that playlist button right over there. New episodes are out every Thursday, so please subscribe and join us each week on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.